got set up in the tree, and so I don't even have my camo on yet. So I always carry that stuff in with me and then get dressed in the tree. But I wanted to go over how I set up my tree, because we get questions all the time about how do you set up a tree. Now, first of all, disclaimer, I am using some gear out of spec, specifically this Ropeman one. This is rated for, I believe it's 9 millimeter to 12 millimeter, something like that. I don't know, check the specs, we'll put it up on the screen. And I'm using this out of spec. This rope is a little bit over 8 millimeters, so it's a little less than a millimeter out of spec. I do not recommend anyone ever use gear out of spec. I'm doing this just for testing purposes, but I'm a trained professional and I assume the risk personally. Tethrd would never ever recommend you use gear out of spec. Disclaimer out of the way. I got my tether. This is an 8 millimeter tether, 8.1, something like that. And I've got my Predator. This is a DIY little knee pad. Normally I'd be using the Notion, but my cameraman forgot his knee pad, so I had to give him my Notion and use my old crappy foam cushion. So DIY cushion. I love knee support I use knee pads or a Notion or this thing, something to protect your knees. But the way I set my tree up is pretty much the same every single time. My his strap right here lives in my sys hauler on my right hip. The other thing that lives in my sys hauler is my recliner. I use my recliner on just about every single hunt. So that one lives in my sys hauler right here. The other thing that lives in my sys hauler is my bow pull-up rope. This is just gutted 550 cord, paracord, and it just lives on the outside pocket of my sys hauler. The last thing that I keep in my sys hauler is little clips, little S carabiners, these right here. So right now I'm hanging my binos on them, and I always remove one of the wire gates on the S beaner, and the other one I just clip to whatever. So I've got one for my quiver, and I've got one that lives on my backpack. And the great thing about it is you can just kind of put them wherever. Now if you sell film, this is a great option. A 3D camera, and I made a little Kydex hook and I mounted it to a battery bank, and then I put a little GoPro mount on it, so my 360 cam just clips right to it, and I can put that wherever. I can move it around the tree, it doesn't matter, whatever makes sense, I can use it that way. And then I've got a little plug that comes from here, plugs into the camera, and it can also charge my cell phone, whatever. So that's pretty cool. My bow always lives on the left side of my his strap. I also have a little DIY Kydex hook that I made that lives right in between my quiver hookup, and I love it because you can just clip it or just hang it right on your his strap. No matter where you want it in the tree, you can just pick it up and move it. That simple. There's just no fiddle factor whatsoever. So my whole system revolves around this his strap, and I just absolutely love the his strap. It just does everything that I need. My quiver, it lives on a hook on my his strap. It always goes on my right hand side, and my pack lives on a clip on my his strap. I hang it on the tail. If you can see this, I got the tail coming down of the his strap, and that lives right there, and I hang my pack on the tail so that way I can adjust the height. I can come higher, lower, depending on the tree, if I need it for cover, get it out of the way of a limb, whatever. I just like the ability to hang it on that the tail end or tag end of my his strap. That's pretty much how I set up my tree at all times. Sometimes I'll hang a grunt call, sometimes I'll hang other stuff, it depends on the hunt. But this is pretty much normal. If I can see, I'm gonna hang binos. If I have good visibility like I do here, I can see a long way. If I can't see a long way, if I'm hunting in the swamps in Georgia or something, I don't even put them out, so my tree is nice and clean. So and the other thing about this tree is if you can get in a split trunk tree like this. Oh shoot, I forgot to close my carabiner. Luckily I just got up here, so always lock your carabiners. But that's about it. I love when I have a tree like this that splits and I can lean back against it. It's just ultimate camouflage. Perfect tree setup. But that's how I set up my tree. You need knee protection, You need something to hang your gear. I prefer a hitch strap. If you prefer screw-in holders or whatever, that's cool too. I mostly hunt public land where that's not legal, so I like this method because it's totally legal, and it just lives in my pocket and I never have to worry about forgetting it. So for me, the cis haulers are absolutely necessity, and the hitch strap is absolutely necessity for the way I set up my tree.